right into it here on Earth Day, by the way. We're going to kick things off. Mother Earth is in focus as we welcome our guests from the CCOB. Jeff Bloomfield is here and Ron Norris. Thanks for finding time today.
Hi, Ted. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Let's dive into it. CCOB is?
It's the Concerned Citizens of Brant, and we are engaged with a gravel pit company who wants to start extracting aggregate on top of our town's water supply.
Okay, let's pretend I'm as dumb as I think I am. What is aggregate?
Gravel.
Gravel.
Sand and gravel.
Meaning, and so they want to extract the gravel from?
It's a field basically on top of our wellhead protection area for for the town of Paris's water supply. And as they extract this gravel, they dig it up with their backhoes and they put it in trucks, and they actually dig a great big hole in the aquifer and expose the aquifer to the environment. And then they wash all this gravel and the silt and the clay and everything else that's on there. They wash that all off. And when we're looking into what goes on with these pits, nobody's ever considered that the farmers have been farming on this property and spraying chemicals on this, and the possibility that these chemicals might be concentrated into this wash pond and into our aquifer.
So is the gravel protecting us from the possible pollutants?
Well, the soil over top of it really provides a filter for the water that gets into the aquifer. And what's going to happen is they're going to remove all this topsoil, the overburden. They're going to extract all the aggregate and expose the aquifer. They're going to dig into the aquifer, and as a result, they're going to remove kind of Mother Nature's natural filter.
That was funny before we got started, because Jeff and Ron are sitting here, and Ron looked at Jeff and said, "How did I get involved in this?"
Yeah.
How did you get involved in this?
You know, it's the oddest thing, because I really wouldn't picture myself getting involved in this. I tell everybody I'm a real believer in the individual's right to make a profit, but this thing is just so crazy. You know, this is a license that was approved 40 years ago, and we were told a couple of years ago that Dufferin had announced their intention to execute a permit that was approved 40 years ago. So we went to the Minister of Natural Resources and said, would you at least review the license so we could have it under current legislation, under current law?
So is that the simple thing right away, that something gets approved 40 years ago, but son of a gun, things have changed in 4 decades?
Yeah, I think 40 years ago we used to smoke in hospitals.
Right.
You know, things have changed, and we said, would you review it under today's legislation? And they refused. So that's how I think I got involved.
So you feel like you're banging your head on the wall right now?
A little bit. The community's really behind us. We have a lot of support, and I think we have some good reasons. You know, we just keep asking for the science. We're not opposed to aggregate. We're just opposed to the fact that they're digging right beside our town wells and right next to the Grand River and right next to a cold water stream, and you know, a heritage. It's the Paris Plains, which is prime aggregate or prime agricultural land. So we got some issues.
Ron talks about those involved. Are your numbers there? Do, first of all, people know what's going on? Is the first question.
Well, people know what's going on. There's some misinformation in the news. Of course, the company has said that they are just going ahead now, even though they still haven't got their permits to take water. They haven't supplied any environmental studies or anything like that yet. However, you know, their intention is to move forward with this thing.
So your intention is to kind of slow down the process. Listen, get comfortable, because we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk more about this. Concerns Citizens of Brant, and they're represented today by Jeff Bloomfield and Ron Norris. Welcome back. You know, here we go. Is one of the goals today to end up with more concerned citizens of Brant?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Without the support of the people, the government won't do anything. Right now, the aggregate companies are in there. They've got a lot of money. They hire people to deal with our politicians and whisper things into their ears so that they get their own way. And unless we speak up and say, hey, we want to make sure that our air is protected, we want to make sure that our water is protected, and we want you guys to do the proper study so we know what the threats are. If we don't stand up and say that, they'll just get their own way and not have to do any of this testing at all.
Let me sound like the devil's advocate. How often do you guys get, you're just tree huggers? I mean, you're against progress.
We get a lot of that, but I don't think we're NIMBY. We really want to see the science. Like I said earlier, we would just like this license to be reviewed. We'd like to know that we're safe. We'd like to know our water's safe, that our community's safe.
So you're
And-
not saying that you're sure this isn't safe. You just want to be sure.
We just want to see the science. We've asked repeatedly to say, look, could you do some groundwater testing? Could you do soil samples? And I think one of the highlights for today for us is that we found that as people get educated about this pit, they join CCOB.
Now, the other question I want to say is that do you guys have any numbers on how much would it cost any company to make sure it's safe? Is it an exorbitant amount of money? Not that, if that's what it takes,
Well, if you're going to do the proper studies, it might cost you a few $100,000 to make sure that all this stuff is right. However, there is a lot of different community groups, just like us, fighting individual gravel pits all across Ontario. And then if you take that, it's all across Canada, it's all across North America, all across the world are doing this. And there are no studies that we can find that have ever been done. And that's the scary part. In the newspapers and in front of the community, they're saying, yeah, we've done all the proper studies, and they refer to the studies that say that everything's safe. But when you say, okay, let us see this, the science that you have, well, you would expect, here's your study, here's your study, here's your study, go and read that stuff.
Now, let's in the interest of fairness, has the CCOB had meetings, first of all, and secondly, have they said to those involved, show us?
Yes.
Yeah.
And?
We've
They
actually
don't-
presented, sorry.
No.
We've actually presented to the county, we've presented to council, to Brant Council, we've presented to, actually the MOE and the MNR, we were part of a group meeting at the GRCA. So, we've presented a lot of our issues and asked these questions. We'd just like you to answer this question for us, can you test for agrochemicals? Is this gonna get into the wash pond? Can you prove this for us? And we've actually seen a lot of support from the county health officers, from the people around us saying, yeah, actually, these are legitimate questions. We should answer these.
Do you get scared? I mean, we're looking at the possibility of a provincial election. Do you get scared that in some cases, Walkerton happened, and now all of a sudden there's noise being made about arduous regulations in the Walkerton area?
Actually, it really brings up a good question, is that usually it takes a catastrophe to change legislation. Walkerton, the result of that issue was the Clean Water Act.
Right.
And what we're trying to highlight with aggregate extraction and some of these, this land has been sprayed with chemicals, this farmland's been sprayed, and we are concerned that it will get into our aquifer when they start moving the soil around and washing the gravel. And this may be one of those issues that we really do need to study, because there are lots of places in Ontario where water supply and aggregate pits are in the same location.
Now, you said Minister of Environment, so before we run out of time, can I ask the question, what response have you gotten from the Ministry of the Environment?
Ministry of Environment assures us that all the proper studies and everything have been done.
Will they show them to you?
No,
Okay.
Wow.
So you're not feeling overly confident?
not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Is that all it's going to take? Now, if you have a meeting, can you get the Minister of the Environment?
We actually have a stakeholders meeting coming up.
Okay, when's that?
With the minister, well, they haven't set the date yet,
Okay.
but they've assured us that we will get an audience with them.
Can you let us know, and can we do follow-ups in
Yeah,
a future
we'd love to.
episode just to see exactly where you're going? Because
That'd be awesome.
this is what it's all about, concerned citizens of Brant. Jeff and Ron, thanks for coming in today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having
we
us.
appreciate the time. Coming